Hey guys, Dr. Mike Deuce at MTFU Longevity. How are you? I've got something really cool for you tonight before I show you the item in question here. I'll talk a little bit about grip and grip strength and injury. As you know, I've had, in my life, I've had injuries to my wrists. I've had 13 surgeries to my right wrist, 5 surgeries to my left wrist, and not to bore you, just to be quick, I injured the triangular fibrocartilage complex, which is a big cartilage that holds some of the carpal bones in place on the lateral aspect of the wrist here. I also had impaction of the ulna, so they had to cut my ulna bone short on both sides, and I've got a plate in each side. So I've got a lot of scar tissue, a plate. I developed a nerve syndrome called reflex dystrophy with my hands when I had this, so it really forced me to get out of practice along with a couple of other issues with my health. Now, I got to be frank, I'm well enough now to go back to practice. I won't, because I love what I do now, and you know, I want to do other things. So the body does heal. And I only say that because I see some of you, not just in this forum, but elsewhere, you get an injury, and you let it hold you back. And sometimes intentionally. Sometimes there's something called secondary gain. You got a bad back, you bum knee, scar tissue, whatever it might be, and all of a sudden, you know, you're either getting sympathy, or you don't have to go back to work, or you get that handicapped parking space, and boy, how pathetic all that stuff is, and I see that. So look, there are people who have overcome, you know, you hear the doctors always say, you can never go back to do this, this, and this again. The doctors say that because it's a liability issue. They don't want to get sued. As long as you have viable flesh and you regain your consciousness after surgery and you're not a quadriplegic, you can get back to doing whatever it was you did and even better. That being said, I've always had problems with my grip. Now, I'm not going to say because I had these wrist injuries, my grip is weaker, and that's why, you know, I use these wrist straps, you know, which we'll talk about. Many of you are probably familiar with these. My grip has always been kind of weak, and I've got to say something. I use the straps mostly on rowing motions, bent over rows, long rows, hanging knee-ups from the bar, pull-downs, and that's pretty much it, I think, for the most part. And the thing that happens is usually I'm working my back, sometimes my abs. The grip goes before the muscle does. So it's all about stimulating the muscle, and if I don't have a good enough grip, I use a strap. And you're familiar with these, you wrap them around the bar, and you tighten it up, and it really takes the factor of a loose or a weak grip out of the equation of working the muscle group in question. So you may want to think about these. A lot of guys, they have this thing where, you know, that's pussy training. Well, there's some marketing for me. Maybe I'll market a pussy training system. I bet you that'll be awfully attractive, at least at first glance, for a lot of people. So I'm always up for making a buck as long as I'm offering value. But the item I have here, there were guys, first of all, at the turn of the century, guys like Thomas Inch, Louis Cyr. I always kind of make references to him, like Fat went out with Louis Cyr because he was a big fat guy. He was a strong man from Canada, very, very strong. He was really big on the grip. He could do like 2-finger lift of hundreds of pounds. Arthur Saxon, and even a guy named Eugene Sandow. Eugene Sandow, you may have heard of to this day. The Mr. Olympia trophy that's given each year is modeled after him. He was one of the first muscular marvels of the early turn of the century era, known for tremendous musculature and displaying of that musculature. He used to travel, made a fortune when he was younger, posing for audiences. He even did so at the World's Fair. But he was also a really, really big-time marketer. He's kind of very reminiscent of somebody named Joe Weider, who you know of, and you know, some people have disparaging thoughts about these guys, but listen, the only reason you know about all this is because of their marketing. And if they never came along, we probably wouldn't have a lot of what we have now. But one of my favorite items that I own is the Sandow dumbbell. This is the original dumbbells he produced. I got 2 of them. I actually still got the case that it came in, and I even have the cleaning cloth. This was given to me as a gift, and it's a rare item. There's not too many of them. Sandow sold these. He began selling them in 1899 for $3, which back then was a lot of money. And his whole thing, I'm going to read to you how he presented this. This appliance is very simple. It consists of a dumbbell made of 2 halves, longitudinally separated by 1.5 inches from one another. the intervening space being occupied by a small steel spring, or in this case springs. While exercising, the spring is compressed by gripping the bell, so bringing the two halves close together, in which position they are kept until the exercise is over. So it wasn't really repetitions. You squeezed it and you held it. And he had 6 editions of this dumbbell. The first edition was for little kids. I don't really even know what that was like. I guess maybe it was just a toy or something like that, or maybe it wasn't. And then you were able to buy different springs of different strengths as you progressed. But you know, as far as it actually, did it really function as a dumbbell? Probably not. It was probably more of a marketing tool to get it out there. But Sandow still does get the credit for developing the precursor of the modern day gripper. So this is what they used back then, and it's really, you can tell they don't make things like this anymore because it's very heavy cast iron. It reminds me of something that Bob Hoffman would have made, because his stuff that he made back at York was very, very high quality at the time. And in fact, he owned a foundry, so he was able to produce the steel himself. So it was pretty high quality stuff. But you know, that's about it as far as this goes here. Developing your grip, it's important. My forearms are never going to be big, and I work them, but you know, you don't really have to work them directly because you got a lot of indirect work. But in my case, everything on me is pretty small, so it matches. It's not like I got a humongous, you know, chest and a small lower body. Everything is pretty even, and that's fine. And it's important to develop your strength, obviously. And I'll close with this. Sandow was a real artsy salesman. He said the object of exercise is to rehabilitate the frame and give it the vigorous strength, the health, and the grace intended by nature, and so fit it to endure the daily task with joyous ease, make the cup of life a perennial and refreshing draught like the ambrosia of the Olympian gods. With these words, I commend to you my new dumbbell. So there you go. I think maybe I'll just hold this and squeeze it for a while. And let me tell you, you do it for a while, you do get a burn, even with my gimpy wrists. That's it for tonight. Work on your grips. Your thoughts, questions, considerations, and statements put down below are my refreshing oxygen. Please help me breathe. Thank you.